Forget New Year, New You. This season is about slowing down, locking the doors, and cozying up at home with the one you really want to do nothing with. Your dog. After the holiday chaos, those quiet nights with a blanket, a podcast, and your pup feel like the reset you actually need. Ollie helps make those moments easier with fresh protein-packed meals made from real human-grade ingredients, so your dog can enjoy some quality comfort food too. Choose from 5 recipes and get a personalized plan for your dog's needs. Meals arrive perfectly proportioned with a scoop and storage container, so serving is fast and mess-free. And with Ollie's in-app on-demand health screenings, supporting your dog is easy, ensuring more cuddles for many years to come. Visit ollie.com/truecrime and use code TRUECRIME for 60% off your first box.
This podcast is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever think about switching insurance companies to see if you could save some cash? Progressive makes it easy. Just drop in some details about yourself and see if you're eligible to save some money when you bundle your home and auto policies. The process only takes minutes, and it could be hundreds more in your pocket. Visit Progressive.com after this episode to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states.
It was February 6, 2024. That's the day 45-year-old Jennifer Crumbley learned her fate. More than 2 years prior, on November 30th, 2021, Jennifer's 15-year-old son took a gun out of his backpack and shot multiple people at his high school, Oxford High School in Oxford, Michigan. 4 students were killed and many others were wounded. Jennifer's son was arrested, and in October 2022, he pleaded guilty to all 24 charges against him. He was later sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. As of this recording, he is appealing that sentence. But as police investigated what had happened that day, including the how did the 15-year-old shooter get the gun he used, and the why had the shooter decided to kill innocent people, they came across some things that led them to believe there might be other people at fault, namely the shooter's parents, Jennifer and James Crumbley. They were arrested days after the shooting in Detroit on Friday, December 3rd, 2021. Oakland County Prosecutor Karen McDonald held a news conference announcing the charges.
My role as the Oakland County Prosecutor is to seek justice for the victims of this tragedy. The family, friends, and loved ones of Hannah St. Juliana, Madison Baldwin, Tate Murr, and Justin Schilling, and the other victims have had their lives shattered. While the shooter was the one who entered the high school and pulled the trigger, there are other individuals who contributed to the events on November 30th, and it's my intention to hold them accountable as well. It's imperative we prevent this from happening again. No other parent or community should have to live through this nightmare. I have shared previously, and I will reiterate today, that gun ownership is a right, and with that right comes great responsibility. Based on the information and evidence I have received, today I am announcing charges against the shooter's parents, Jennifer and James Crumbley. The charges are as follows. James Crumbley is charged with 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter. Jennifer Crumbley is also charged with 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter.
Would the jury agree with prosecutors that the shooter's parents shared the blame?
Jennifer Crumbley sees her son at the substation, and for the first time, when he looks at her, his eyes looked black. And it was a son she did not recognize.
This is Jillian in partnership with Law and Crime. You are listening to Court Junkie, episode 270, part 1. Madison Baldwin was 17 years old. Tate Murr was 16. Justin Schilling was 17. And Hannah St. Juliana was 14.
They died on November the 30th of 2021. They weren't in a car crash. They weren't sick. They were murdered in an act of terror committed by Jennifer Crumbley's 15-year-old son. Jennifer Crumbley didn't pull the trigger that day, but she is responsible for those deaths.
When he began his opening statements at Jennifer Crumbley's trial on January 25, 2024, Assistant Prosecutor Mark Keast showed the jury a photo of a gun Jennifer and her husband James had purchased for their son as a gift.
These kids were gunned down inside Oxford High School with this gun. It's a 6-hour 9mm handgun purchased 4 days before the shooting by James Crumbley, Jennifer's husband and father of the school shooter. The evidence will prove that by the time this gun was bought, the school shooter was in a downward spiral that had begun months before. The evidence will also show you that Jennifer Crumbley was aware of that. Despite her knowledge of his deteriorating mental crisis, despite her knowledge of his growing social isolation, despite the fact that it is illegal for a 15-year-old to walk into a gun store and walk out with a handgun by himself, this gun was gifted. You will also learn that despite all of that background, this firearm was not secured in a way to prevent her son from gaining access to it.
He said on November 30th, Jennifer was still given the opportunity to prevent the murders from happening. Instead, she chose to do nothing. He told the jury that a drawing was sent to her that morning, more than 3 hours prior to the shooting. It was something her son had drawn on a math worksheet and that the school counselor had sent to her, requesting an immediate meeting that day.
He requested that meeting because this drawing, those words suggest both weapon and injury, even to someone with only limited knowledge of the shooter. Apparently, that raised an alarm with Jennifer Crumbley because she did go to the meeting with her husband, but before she did, she privately communicated her own concern with her husband.
He said despite their private concern, that meeting at the school was nothing like what the school counselor or dean of students who sat in on the meeting had ever experienced before.
Those two individuals, even with their limited knowledge of that drawing, had expected the defendant or her husband to take their son home and set an appointment with the mental health professional. But they didn't. You see, you will learn that these kind of meetings, when they occur with parents, can last an hour or longer. This one was abruptly ended by Jennifer Crumbley after just over 11 minutes. And then she left.
He said the two people in the world with all the information to put that drawing into context were James and Jennifer, and they didn't share any of it in that meeting. They didn't say that the drawing of the firearm was identical to their son's gun. They didn't say anything about his increased mental distress. They didn't stop home to look for the gun they had purchased for him. They did nothing.
They didn't do any number of tragically small and easy things that would have prevented all of this from happening. One theme will present itself during this trial is just how senseless November 30th was. And that's because of all of the easy, ordinary things for someone to do that nobody did.
All cell phones belonging to the Crumbleys were seized and analyzed. Prosecutor Keast told the jury that they would get a view into the Crumbley life in the days, weeks, and months prior to the shooting, as well as the aftermath. They will see a pattern emerge in Jennifer after the shooting, he said. She immediately began to downplay and lie about her level of knowledge about her son, that weapon, and that drawing. He said this pattern would continue until she and her husband were found hiding from the police. He said her first instinct was to lie. Her second was to run.
Now, the evidence will show you that she didn't pull the trigger, but she's responsible. But there is no claim that she gifted that firearm to her son knowing he was going to commit the attack. There's no claim that she wanted him to commit the attack. So how can she be held responsible when her son pulled the trigger? And the answer is she's not charged with murder. She's charged with involuntary manslaughter. You see, murder it's an intentional killing. Involuntary manslaughter, by definition, is unintentional. It's rooted in negligence. I ask that during this trial you listen to the testimony you review the evidence, and you follow the law. If you do that, you will undoubtedly reach a fair and just verdict. If you do that, you will find this defendant guilty as charged.
Jennifer Crumbley's attorney was Shannon Smith.
On my way to court today, I blasted Taylor Swift to warm up my voice and calm my nerves. And there was a line in one of her songs that summarized what this case is about. Band-Aids don't stop bullet holes. And that's what this case is about. It's about the prosecution attempting to put a Band-Aid on problems that can't be fixed with a Band-Aid. The prosecution has charged Jennifer Crumbley with involuntary manslaughter in an effort to make the community feel better, in an effort to make people feel like someone is being held responsible, in an effort to send a message to gun owners. And none of those problems will be solved by charging Jennifer Crumbley with involuntary manslaughter.
She said the evidence is absolutely horrific and will make the jury feel sick and disgusted. She told them it will scare you, traumatize you, and quite frankly, there's no reason the evidence needs to be shown.
Mrs. Crumbley, myself, everyone in this courtroom agrees that on November 30th, 2021, the worst possible thing happened when Ethan Crumbley used a gun and terrorized the Oxford High School. So as you are watching the evidence, I ask you to keep in mind that much of what the prosecution is going to show you is going to alarm you and disgust you and be horrifically sad and tragic. But that evidence is about about the shooter. And in this case, we have agreed to call Jennifer Crumbley's son the shooter because he is the shooter and he is the one, as you will see from the evidence, who was responsible for the tragedy that unfolded on November 30th of 2021.
She said prior to November 30th, Jennifer was the mother to a 15-year-old son, and she didn't have it on her radar in any way that there was any mental disturbance or that her son would ever take a gun into a school or shoot people. She said Jennifer did the best she could as a mother and that she had no way of knowing what was going to happen. She said Jennifer raised a son she took to soccer practice, basketball, bowling, that she's the kind of mother who, when a 1mm mole changed on his back, took him to urgent care.
She's the kind of mother who's texting her husband, who is at home, working from home. Where is Ethan? Where is Ethan? Where is Ethan? At 3:14 in the afternoon, getting texts back saying, Ethan gets home at 3:16. What's your problem? And she keeps texting. Where is he? Where is he? You will see that if anything, Jennifer Crumbley was a hypervigilant mother who cared more about her son than anything in the world.
She said Jennifer isn't a perfect parent, but that the evidence will show that the prosecution has very selectively pulled out slivers of evidence from a forest of trees. She said they were trying to convince the jury that there was something wrong with the shooter and that his mom should have known. She said at the end of the day, these slivers of evidence will have no context and no explanation, and that the defense will agree that on their face, it looks bad. But, she said, like any of you who look back at texts sent a year ago, they may look bad without context and explanation.
And so we would ask that you reserve any judgment on these slivers of evidence until the defense presents evidence itself, and we will be presenting evidence in this case, to show the context and what was truly happening on these days that the prosecution is going to try to make you believe something more was happening.
She said James and the shooter went to the shooting range often, and that James was responsible for storing the guns. Jennifer didn't know anything about guns, she said. She went to the shooting range one time with James and the shooter, and a second time after the gun was purchased. This time it was in the days prior to the shootings. Smith told the jury that Jennifer was attempting to find a way to spend time with her son. She said he had just lost his dog and his friend had moved away, so she was trying to connect with him. She said Jennifer didn't know where the gun was or even how to put it in the car. Instead, she had James prepare the gun to take it to the range. He had hidden the gun in the bedroom of their home with a trigger lock in place. She said the shooter was the one showing Jennifer how to use the gun at the range. When they were done, the gun was placed in the back of the SUV and Jennifer drove home. She was not responsible for storing the gun. She left the gun locked in the back of her SUV, and James was responsible for getting it out, putting the trigger lock back on, and storing it. Smith said Jennifer had nothing to do with that part. Over the next couple of days after Thanksgiving, the family was picking out their Christmas tree and picking out presents. There was nothing that would have amounted to any reason to believe the shooter was going to shoot people. She said on the day of the shooting, Jennifer, who was the breadwinner at the time, went to work. She found out through an email and text that her son had drawn something alarming.
Jennifer freaks out when she sees the drawing. You will see the text messages that show she's urgently texting her husband, emergency, call me now, and she races out of work and goes to the school. Upon arriving at the school, she meets with Sean Hopkins, the school counselor. She meets with Nick Ejak, the school principal, and she meets with James Crumbley and the shooter. And they are all in a room together where the shooter explains why he has put together this drawing and what the drawing means. The family and the school talk about how a counselor would be a good idea for the shooter to get into some kind of counseling. The meeting is not nearly as severe as Mrs. Crumbley was initially expecting. Trained professionals at the school who evaluate children represent that the shooter is of no risk to anyone and they allow him to stay in school.
She said this was not a situation where Jennifer refused to take her son home. She was provided with the option of leaving him at school or taking him home. She said the shooter wanted to stay that day, and so Jennifer left him there. She added that the school was fine with it. Jennifer then went back to work. Suddenly, there was news that there was an open shooter at Oxford. Smith said it wasn't even on Jennifer's radar that it could have been her son as the shooter. She immediately was concerned that he could be hurt. She drove to the school as fast as she could and talked to her husband on the way. Smith said she then became aware that the gun at their house was missing.
And in Jennifer Crumbley's mind, and you will hear evidence of this, she believes that perhaps her son has done something stupid, like taken the gun and shot it in the air or done something. She knows he's still alive and believes that it's going to be okay. Whatever's happened, they can cross that bridge. A little bit later, there's more conversations, and Mrs. Crumbley becomes concerned that the shooter is actually attempting suicide. And Jennifer Crumbley texts her son, Ethan, don't do it. It still has not crossed her mind that he would ever shoot another person.
She said ultimately, Jennifer and James were called to the substation where they learned that their son was the school shooter and that there were fatalities.
Jennifer Crumbley will tell you she still could not believe that was true and went into a complete state of shock and despair and stress and not knowing realizing her life and everyone's life was going to change. And her initial comments are about how could her son have ruined so many lives that day. Jennifer Crumbley sees her son at the substation And for the first time, when he looks at her, his eyes looked black. And it was a son she did not recognize.
She said the Crumbleys went home and police conducted a search warrant. They took their phones, which the Crumbleys handed over. She said they then had to buy burner phones. She told the jury that they began to get death threats. People were planning riots around their house, and they could no longer stay there. So they drove to a hotel where they spent the night. She said Jennifer was trying to digest what had tragically just unfolded.
In the days following the event, while the prosecution says the evidence will show Jennifer Crumbley is lying, Jennifer Crumbley is truthfully telling the world she had no idea and finding out that she is about to be charged in this Band-Aid effort by the prosecution with involuntary manslaughter. Jennifer and James Crumbley go to the bank. They're advised by friends and family, and you will hear testimony that their money could all be taken out of their accounts, and they know they need money to be able to live and hire lawyers and figure out what to do. They withdraw all of the money from their bank account. The burner phones they're using, they can't get access to any of their accounts because of this two-part authentication you now have to do. So they go to the Metro PCS store where they buy new telephones that they can actually use to access their social media, their accounts, their contacts, and they end up with multiple cell phones. After that, they work to find lawyers. They don't know what to do. They don't understand what they're being charged with. They're under the stress of knowing their son is gone, and life will never be the same, undoubtedly. And on Friday, December 3rd, the Crumbleys find out when a press conference is held that they are being charged with 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter. And at that point, they attempt to try to figure out what to do, where to stay, where to go, what to do. And they ultimately ask a friend if they can stay at his art studio until they know where to go and what to do. They make plans to turn themselves into the court on Saturday morning, because remember, this is late in the day Friday, Saturday morning at 8:30 when the court opens up and does weekend arraignments. And overnight, the prosecutor's office, the sheriff's department, the fugitive apprehension team, the U.S. Marshals have a statewide search claiming that James Crumbley and Jennifer Crumbley are on the lam. They are running. They are fleeing. They are trying to avoid charges. And it couldn't be any further from the truth.
She said they were sleeping on a mattress in the middle of the night. They weren't really hiding. At times, they were standing outside their car, smoking cigarettes and talking on the phone.
There's absolutely no evidence to suggest that they're fleeing. You will see body camera footage where when police come into the art studio to find them dead asleep on this mattress, they are cooperative, they are taken into custody, and they are arrested.
She said the prosecution has grossly misconstrued the facts in this case, and she asked the jury to wait and see all of the evidence, including testimony from Jennifer herself. She asked them to find Jennifer Crumbley not guilty of involuntary manslaughter. The details of the shooting that came out at Jennifer Crumbley's trial, as the prosecution began presenting their case, were horrific, as expected. The prosecution called multiple witnesses to the stand to testify about the scene that day. Teachers and administrators who had heard the shooting and seen the shooter and the victims.
And so I look up, and I see someone dressed in dark, oversized clothing.
And you're looking through that glass pane next to your door. Okay.
They have the mask on, a hat, glasses, and a hood. And I lock eyes with him.
So you came down the corner hallway and you turned left towards 225.
Yes.
Tell us what you saw when you made a left.
I saw a student laying on the ground.
Do you know who he was?
I didn't at that time, no. His face was covered. And then as I continued a couple of steps, I could see another student walking my direction. He had just dropped his arm was up, and then he dropped his arm.
The prosecution also played surveillance video from the shooting. Before they called their third witness to the stand, Jennifer Crumbley's defense attorney, Shannon Smith, who was visibly in tears at the defense table and who had just finished blowing her nose, stood up.
Jennifer, is there any way we can have like a minute?
Say it again.
I'm like so sorry. Can we just have a minute, like a break or we have a 10-minute break, please?
Oh, sure.
As the jury left, crying could be heard coming from the defense table. After the jury was out of earshot, Prosecutor McDonald spoke to the judge.
This court, upon the defense's request, instructed the prosecutors not to show emotion. You instructed the prosecutors to tell our witnesses not to show emotion. And you instructed us to let our victims know.
I don't think that's actually what I said.
understand the ruling, Your Honor. I do.
Yeah.
You're concerned about influence of the jury. I take no issue with it. But it was a difficult thing. It's difficult, and we're doing it. And then to have not just the defendant, her lawyer, sit there sobbing.
I did not sob.
I just want to finish, Your Honor. I just want to finish. I think if that is the instruction, we are trying really hard to respect the court's instruction because I understand the reason for it.
The judge said she didn't say people couldn't show emotion, but that if someone was sobbing in the audience, she would hope that they would exit. I guess I don't understand what you're asking of me, she told Prosecutor McDonald. I just want it to apply to both sides, Prosecutor McDonald explained.
Your Honor, first of all, I was not sobbing, and this is horrific. Horrific.
I've never seen this before.
It's horrific. That's why we asked the court not to play it. This is horrific. I don't know how the prosecutor. She's watched it 100 times with these witnesses. It's horrific.
You've had this video for over 2 years.
I don't know. I don't have this video. I have to go to their office to watch it.
You've seen it.
No, I haven't because it's not necessary. It's not relevant to my client's case. We've already litigated this, but we're doing our best. We were not sobbing or making a scene in any way. All my eye makeup's still on. I checked my camera.
I'm not having an
I need to run to the bathroom. I need a break.
Okay, we're having a break. That's what we're doing.
The judge told everyone to take a deep breath. When the jury came back in, the trial resumed. Cammie Back was an office manager at a gun retail store. She said when people come into the store to purchase a firearm, they collect the person's ID, they have the person fill out a federal firearms form, and then the store runs what they call a NICS check on the computer. She explained that's when you send it over to the FBI, and the FBI takes it over from there. She said the process can take seconds or even up to 30 minutes or longer. She said as long as everything checks out, the person can leave with the gun that day. She said they also provide an ATF pamphlet on gun safety. It states the do's and the don'ts, like child safety, how to lock the gun up and keep it safe and out of the hands of anyone who doesn't need to have it. She told the jury that their store also gives out a trigger lock or a cable lock anytime someone purchases a gun. It's not a safe, but a smaller locking device. On November 26, 2021, 4 days prior to the shooting at Oxford High School, she sold a handgun, a Sig Sauer 9mm, to James Crumbley. She said he was with a teenager, whom she later learned was his 15-year-old son. She also gave him a cable lock for the gun. This gun would later become the murder weapon. James Crumbley had also purchased 2 other firearms months prior, in June 2021, a Caltech and a Derringer. She was asked if she would ever sell a gun to a 15-year-old, and she said absolutely not. On cross, she agreed that Jennifer Crumbley's name does not appear anywhere on the receipt, only James Crumbley. She also agreed that there was nothing about the teenage boy that was concerning. A parent has a right to take their child to a shooting range, correct? Smith asked her. She said yes.
You testified that with the Sig Sauer gun, it did not come from the manufacturer with a lock, correct? A cable lock.
That was a used gun.
Okay, so the used gun did not come with a cable lock in the case, correct?
It may have.
If it didn't, you provided a cable lock
Yes.
to that gun.
Yes.
And in order to take a cable lock off a gun, you have to use a key, correct?
Yes.
And the key it's not just any key, it's a key specific to that cable lock, correct?
Yes.
Brett Brandon is a special agent with the ATF. On November 30th, he was in the Detroit office. He heard about the shooting within several minutes of it happening and then grabbed his things and immediately drove out to Oxford. He had grown up around that area and thought he could help. Part of his job is to respond to active shooters. Another part of his job is to trace guns that are used in shootings. In this case, the gun, a Sig Sauer, was found in a trash bin near the scene. From there, he was able to trace it back to the store where James Crumbley had purchased it. He was asked about the different guns James had recently purchased.
What is the difference between the Sig and a 22?
It's the size of the round is the main difference.
Okay, the size of the actual bullet, for lack of another. I know you say round. Okay, yes. And why does the size matter?
The size matters because the larger the bullet, the bigger the hole.
Okay, more damage, whatever it is you're shooting.
Right.
Agent Brandon assisted with the search warrant at the Crumbley home. Investigators had recovered the other 2 handguns inside the house. He identified a pistol case that had come with one of the other guns that had been purchased in June. It was found in the kitchen underneath the island in a cabinet. Inside the case was the cable lock, which was in the packaging and looked almost new, he said, like it hadn't been used. The keys for the cable lock were also still in the packaging. He identified a black safe with a combination on the front. This was found in the Crumbley's bedroom on the dresser where their TV was.
How many numbers is the combination?
It's 3.
All right, and what is it set at?
0, 0, 0.
All right, what's significant about 0, 0, 0?
That is generally the factory default for a lot of safes.
Okay, so even though to some people who aren't familiar with firearms, this might look like a box, this is actually what you refer to as a gun safe, correct?
Yes.
You call this a safe?
I would call that a safe, yes.
Okay. What, if anything, was found inside this safe?
Both the Derringer and the Kel-Tec pistol were located inside that safe.
Prosecutor McDonald handed him another pistol case that was recovered from the bedroom, which Agent Brandon said was for the Sig Sauer 9mm pistol that was used in the shooting. It was the case the gun had been sold in.
And do you know where that was found in? Where was it recovered, if you know?
It was located on the bed in the Jennifer and James Crumbley's bedroom next to an empty box of Patriot Defense ammunition.
Okay. And does that have a locking mechanism?
It doesn't have one inserted, but as the other pistol case, there are 2 holes in the pistol box that you could place a locking mechanism through to secure the case.
He testified that other officers had already found it by the time he had arrived. He said he didn't know where it had originally been kept. Prosecutor McDonald asked him about the gun safety pamphlet that had come with the gun. He said in the week prior to him testifying, he had looked at the gun case again and saw that the pamphlet was actually underneath the foam inside the case. She then asked him about what gun owners are legally required to do in Michigan after purchasing a weapon, and he told the jury that they have 10 days to register it with law enforcement. She asked him if the Derringer was registered, and he said no. She asked about the Kel-Tec, and he said no. As for the Sig, the murder weapon, he said that wasn't registered either, but that James still had some time to do that when the shooting occurred. As for the video surveillance of the shooting he observed, he said there were 3 main things that caught his attention. For starters, he said the shooter was initially using one arm to hold the gun, but when he came across his first victim, he took a 2-handed shooting grip and a shooter's stance. He then took aim using the sights on the gun. He said when he saw that on the surveillance video, he knew that the shooter had been to a shooting range or had training in firearms. Then, he said at another point in the video, the shooter conducted a combat reload.
Why are you trained to do a combat reload?
To make sure that you always have more rounds in your magazine, so that you have sufficient ammunition. So if you have half of a magazine, you would eject it, not throw it on the ground. You would put it in your pocket in case you need it, and then you load a full magazine. So now you're back to full capacity.
And what were you trained would be the purpose for that? When would you have cause to do that?
So for us, we're trained if we're involved in a shooting. If you do that, that way you have a fully loaded magazine in case you need to re-engage a threat. Obviously, the circumstances here were obviously different.
He said the third thing he noticed was after the shooter exited the bathroom, where he eventually gave himself up, he ejected the magazine out of the firearm and placed it on top of the receptacle.
Which I found odd at the time, because if you were just doing a school shooting, it seemed odd to take the magazine and make a firearm safe.
So he walked out of the bathroom, and the evidence showed that is where Justin Schilling was killed. He walked out of the bathroom, and you say he took the magazine out, and you're saying that it's making the firearm safe.
Yes, I don't believe he ejected around from the chamber. I don't recall right now. I don't believe he did. But yes, he separated the magazine from the firearm as if you were at a shooting range and taking the magazine out and setting it on like a
stationary crash.
Yes.
He said after he realized there was some level of firearms training the shooter had, he visited some shooting ranges. He had also learned that the Crumbley family had recently been to one. Prosecutor McDonald then showed him some Facebook messages from June 2021 between James and Jennifer, where they discussed James purchasing guns and James and the shooter being at the gun range. A video of James and the shooter at the range was shown to the jury. James had sent it to Jennifer, and she posted it to her Instagram stories, writing that both the shooter and James got guns this week. Testing them out at the range, she wrote. James sent Jennifer another video of the shooter shooting the Caltech at the shooting range. Jennifer also posted this to her Instagram story. Another video recovered from James's phone showed Jennifer shooting the Caltech at a range in July. On August 19, 2021, a video was sent from the shooter to another individual. It was the shooter holding the Caltech pistol with a couch in the background. Later that night, after midnight, he sent the same friend another video. It was video taken of the dining room table in the Crumbley residence.
In the video, the shooter loads a loaded firearm magazine into the firearm and then chambers around into the firearm.
So, is this a concern to you?
Yes.
Can you tell the jury why?
As that ATF safety pamphlet states, the access to firearm by juveniles.
Your Honor, I would object because access to firearms by juveniles may be against the ATF pamphlet, but there's no evidence that there's not an adult there or anything happening.
Okay, yeah, he's not commenting on that. You don't know if anybody else was present.
No, Your Honor, I don't.
And Your Honor, I understand that's argument, and
Right.
She can use my daughter. Was there any message accompanying this video to his friend?
Yes.
What was the message?
My dad left it out, so I thought, why not? LOL.
Google location for James and Jennifer at the time that both videos were sent from the shooter to his friend shows that both parents were at home. On November 26, 2021, the day the murder weapon was purchased, the shooter posted on Instagram, "Just got my new beauty today, Sig Sauer 9mm. Ask any questions, I will answer."
Special Agent, were you able to determine based on the forensic evidence of the phones whether or not Jennifer Crumbley followed the shooter's Instagram account?
Yes, she did.
Okay, so this account where he posted, she followed it. We can't say she saw it, but we know she followed it.
Correct. Yes.
Okay, and that is a picture of the SIG?
Yeah, so the first picture was the 6 hour in the pistol box. And then the second picture is the shooter holding the firearm. It appears to be inside the Crumbley family residence based on the floor. And then there's the shooter again holding the firearm with the sights aimed in. As you can see, the 3 dots are aligned.
The following day, on that Saturday, 3 days before the shooting, Jennifer and the shooter went to a gun range. They bought 9mm ammunition and took turns firing the Sig Sauer, according to recovered surveillance video. This was the first and only time 9mm ammunition was purchased at the range. When asked where James was, he was working as a DoorDash driver.
What are we looking at, Special Agent?
So that's Jennifer Crumbley had just arrived and placed the 6 hour pistol box on the display case there, and the shooter is standing over her shoulder.
In the video, Jennifer can be seen handling the gun and ammo. Then, the shooter loaded ammo into the gun. Prosecutor McDonald asked Agent Brandon if he saw a lock anywhere, either in the case or next to it, and he said no. Later in the video, the shooter put the gun in the case and tried to get it to close. Jennifer then carried it while the shooter carried the targets and ammo.
Based on your investigation and all the physical evidence and digital evidence, was this the last known image of this weapon before it was used to kill the students in Oxford High School?
Yes.
Later that day, the shooter posted on Instagram.
Posted later that evening, said, "Took my new SIG out to the range today. Definitely need to get used to the new sights, LOL."
And could you tell when that was posted?
Yes, 1902 on the date they went to the range, being the 27th, the day after Thanksgiving.
Okay, and what time is that for?
7:02 p.m.
Okay.
When that was posted, Jennifer was at home. Jennifer then posted on her Instagram a photo of the target.
And what is this picture of?
So this is the third image. The first was the main target. Then there was a zoom in of the bullseye. And then there was this image, which was of the firearm in the case with 2 pistol magazines and the ATF Youth Handgun Safety Act notice beneath it.
He said James was still doing DoorDash deliveries at this time. Agent Brandon was then shown a drawing that the shooter had made on the day of the shooting.
Special Agent, what, if anything, caught your attention about this drawing?
There were several things, specifically with the firearm. After recovering it and looking at it, inspecting it, it appeared to be the same firearm recovered from that the shooter used to commit the shooting, the 6 hour 9mm pistol.
He testified that the gun the shooter had drawn looked exactly like his Sig Sauer 9mm. On cross-examination, attorney Shannon Smith asked Agent Brandon if back on November 30th, 2021, it was illegal for a minor to touch a gun. He said no. She also asked if it was illegal for a minor to shoot a firearm at a gun range. He said no.
On November 30th of 2021, there also is no law, federal law, that requires certain storage requirements for guns, correct?
Inside of your residence?
Yes.
There is not a federal law that forces anyone to store their firearms in a certain way, no.
And as far as you know, on November 30th of 2021, there also is not a state law that states how a firearm must be stored, correct?
It's my understanding, based on this investigation, that at the time there was not a law governing how to store a firearm in a home, no.
She asked if it's common knowledge that a gun is a serious, dangerous weapon.
I would hope so, yes.
It does not take getting a pamphlet to know that a gun is a weapon. That's common knowledge, correct?
Yes.
Whether that pamphlet is in the box, on the counter, on the floor, in the car. It's common knowledge that a gun is a serious, dangerous weapon, correct?
Yes, but that's not the purpose of this pamphlet.
Well, the purpose of this pamphlet is to make sure youths with handgun is especially dangerous, correct?
Yes.
And that also is fairly common sense, correct?
I don't know how to answer that question, being that it's like the number one cause of death for children, that firearms are the number one cause of death for kids. So I don't know how to answer that question.
Well, my point is, we know guns are dangerous. We know they're dangerous when youths handle guns. It doesn't change whether it's a youth or an adult, correct?
I think that if they wanted to have a pamphlet that said the Person Safety Act notice, they would have. It says youth for a reason. I think that there's a special category for that.
But any person would know that a youth handling a gun, it would be dangerous.
I would hope so.
He agreed that the only time he had seen Jennifer at the gun range on surveillance video was in the days prior to the shooting. He also agreed it looked like Jennifer was having trouble getting the gun to work at one point, and the shooter helped her. Smith asked him if he knew where the Sig Sauer was kept prior to seeing the gun case on the bed when he was there for the search warrant.
You don't know prior to that day or the night before where that gun was stored in the Crumbley's home, correct?
I don't know myself. I don't have knowledge of that. I know that there's been. I don't know how to answer that question, honestly.
Okay, well, you don't know the answer.
As someone that's been involved in this investigation, as one of the officers in charge, I have reviewed multiple different statements and texts about where it was stored. So I don't know how to quite answer that question, because there were various texts and statements about where it was stored from, and the defendant's messages and statements and things like that. So I don't know how to answer that question. But do I know for certain where it was stored? The answer to that is no.
Okay. When the gun was in the Crumbley's home, in the days following James buying the gun, you don't know if the cable lock was on that gun.
I don't know. Other than the 26th, the date that they purchased the firearm, I believe they took photos of it around 1 o'clock p.m. I know that the shooter took a video around shortly after 6 o'clock p.m. with the firearm, with the cable lock still in the bag, not inserted in the gun. So I know that at least when they got home from the firearm store after the purchase, there were photographs taken. There was no cable lock inserted. I know later that night at 6 p.m., so we're shortly thereafter, between 6 and 6:40, both the shooter and Mrs. Crumbley took photographs on their phone or photos and videos, and the cable lock wasn't inserted. It was still in the bag. That's all I know. I know that and at those specific times when those pictures are taken, that the cable lock was not used at those times.
She said after those photos were taken on the 26th, he doesn't know if the cable lock was put on, where the gun was stored, and who was responsible for storing it. He again said he doesn't know how to answer that, as he has viewed other evidence in the case. Smith then went to November 27th, the day Jennifer went to the gun range with the shooter, and the last time the gun was seen on that surveillance video.
And once they got home that night, you have no idea if the cable lock was put on the gun.
I do not know. No.
You don't even know if the gun was brought in the house.
No.
You don't know where the gun was kept that night.
No.
And you don't know where the gun was kept in the following day or day after. You don't have personal knowledge of that, correct?
Yes.
Edward Wagrowski worked for the sheriff's office in the Computer Crimes Division. He reviewed all the phones and social channels in this case. He showed the jury a text message conversation between Jennifer and the shooter from March 9th, 2021 at 7:50 p.m. In the messages, the shooter asked if Jennifer can come home. He said there's someone in the house. He then wrote, "Someone walked into the bathroom and flushed the toilet but left the light on. And I thought it was you, but when I came out, no one was home. There's no one in the house, though." At 8 p.m., he wrote, "Dude, my door just slammed." Then, "Maybe it's just my paranoia." At 8:01 p.m., he wrote, "But when are you going to get home?" There were no text responses from Jennifer, nor any phone calls from her to him until the following day. The prosecutor then backed up to the day prior to that, March 8th, for context, he said. He pulled up a Facebook chat thread between James and Jennifer, one that had been deleted from Jennifer's phone. Jennifer asked if the shooter was going to bowling, and James responded that he didn't know, that he'll know after he gets home. Jennifer asked him if he has his phone, then asked, "Why isn't he home yet? He should be home by now." This was at 3:12 p.m. She then wrote, "Freaking out." James responded, "He does not get home until 3:16. Jennifer wrote, "I told you to pick him up because he's upset, and I don't want him to do anything stupid, goddammit." James responded, "Dude, chill. He is fine, and I'm trying to fucking work." The prosecutor then moved to the following week, March 17th, 2021, to a Facebook chat between James and Jennifer. Jennifer wrote, "Does he have his phone?" James responded, "Yes, but he won't answer while he's walking. I'll let you know the minute he walks in." Jennifer said, "I'm serious, freaking out. Is he home yet?" Also that day, Jennifer messaged James that she will be leaving work at 4 to go to the barn. "Fuck this place," she wrote. James asked if she has her stuff for the barn, and she replied, "Yes, going to get drunk and ride my horse." On this same day, March 17th, which was St. Patrick's Day, the shooter texted Jennifer at 6:03 p.m. "Okay, the house is now haunted," he wrote. Then, "Some weird shit just happened and now I'm scared. I got some videos and a picture of the demon." Then, "It's throwing bowls. I'm not joking. It fucked up the kitchen." He then wrote, "I'm just going to be outside for a while. Can you at least text back?" That last text was at 6:29 p.m. The prosecutor showed Officer Wegrowski a picture of James on a horse that was taken from Jennifer's phone. The metadata showed the photo was taken on March 17th at 6:03 p.m., right when Jennifer was receiving those texts from her son. There was also an image of Jennifer on a horse from Jennifer's phone during that same time frame. According to call logs, Jennifer called the shooter at 7:24 p.m.
So that's about an hour and a half after he texted about the house being haunted.
That's correct.
And that was a 19-second call?
Correct.
2 days later, on March 19th, 2021, there was a Facebook conversation between James and Jennifer regarding their son. Jennifer wrote, "Is he awake?" James said, yeah. Jennifer asked, "How is he?" James said, "He woke up looking like he had way too much to drink last night and complaining about a headache." Jennifer replied, "Well, he was really worked up and out of control, so I can see why." She then wrote, "All I know is he needs to eat, go to work hard, and not complain, and he can get his stuff back." James wrote, "I totally thought you were giving him a Xanax last night." Jennifer responded, "Does he seem better?" "No, melatonin." James wrote, "I know." Jennifer wrote, "Well, he hasn't had one before, so I should have only given him half." James responded, "He's doing his school, says his head hurts, took some Tylenol." Jennifer asked, "Is he okay to work?" James said yes. Jennifer then said, "Does he remember what he did?" James responded, "Dude, I'm working on a demo right now. I have not talked to him and he's doing school." Jennifer responded, "Okay then, geesh." The following day on March 20th at 2:33 p.m., the shooter texted Jennifer, "I finished picking up the room. I cleaned until the clothes started flying off the shelf. This stuff only happens when I'm home alone. I picked the clothes back up, though." Jennifer didn't respond via text. According to the phone log, she did not call him until about 4 hours later. According to their location data, Jennifer and James were riding their horses during this time.
Sir, during the course of your investigation, did you come to learn that the school shooter had only one friend?
Yes.
And did you also learn that that individual was abruptly taken from the state of Michigan about a month before the shooting occurred?
Yes, he was.
And did you review the text message thread between the school shooter and that other individual?
Yes.
He said there were over 20,000 text messages between the shooter and his friend. The most texts between him and any other person may have been 500 messages. On April 4th, 2021, just before midnight, the shooter texted his friend, "Like I hear people talking to me and see someone in the distance." He also wrote, "I actually asked my dad to take me to the doctor yesterday, but he just gave me some pills and told me to, quote, suck it up." Then he wrote, "Like it's at the point that I'm asking to go to the doctor. My mom laughed when I told her." At 12:06 a.m., he wrote, "But I'm having bad insomnia right now and paranoia." He then wrote, "I need help. I was thinking of calling 911 just so I could go to the hospital." The friend responded, and then the shooter wrote, "But then my parents would be really pissed." About 20 minutes later, he wrote, "I'm going to ask my parents to go to the doctor's tomorrow or Tuesday again, but this time I'm going to tell them about the voices." Then he wrote, "Like I am mentally and physically dying." Also on April 5th, the app Life 360, a tracking app that people can use to track each other's whereabouts, was installed on James and Jennifer's phones. The app was never found on the shooter's phone. The prosecutor then went over additional text messages.
In April of 2021, which is the same month of these text messages, Jennifer Crumbley texted her son's only friend's mother, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And in that conversation is when you uncovered concerning text messages as an investigator to this case.
Correct.
On April 29th, 2021, Jennifer texted the friend's mom that her son wouldn't be bowling that night. "Just want to let you know. Not sure if they need a partner or not," she said. The friend's mom wrote, "Is he feeling okay?" Jennifer responded, "Yesterday he wasn't, and he's been acting kind of depressed, so I don't know what's going on." She then wrote, "I'm not sure if there's something bothering him at school. He really doesn't feel good. I can't get anything out of him." The friend's mom responded that her son is 2 and stayed home from school that day. She wrote that the only time he's happy is when he's with the shooter. Jennifer wrote, "Yeah, this is all new to me. I'm not used to him being moody. He's usually pretty happy and will talk about anything. I do know he's been stressed about school and his grades. We called the school, but she wasn't in. Do it tomorrow. I think his grades have a lot to do with it. He just got to a point where he got so far behind when we were out of town. He's having a difficult time making it up." The friend's mom said she's sorry and that her son is struggling too. "To be honest, I'm sick of fighting with him about it. Stupid online school really messed him up." She said she's thankful their sons are friends. They laugh and have a great time together. Jennifer responded, "Yeah, me too. I'm just glad they're still getting along and it wasn't an issue with those two as to why he was being depressed. The online school is horrible. I've given up too. I just told him to do the best and don't worry about it. Next year is a new year." Jennifer then said that if the friend is feeling better and wants to come over after work on Saturday, he can take him up to go bowling and maybe up their scores. "He's more than welcome to stay the night and go to work in the morning," she wrote. "We set up a little shooting range in the backyard for my son's BB gun, so they can do that." The friend's mom responded that her son is excited to shoot. Agent Wagrowski told the jury that the shooter's friend then suddenly had to move out of the state. He said he was the shooter's only friend. The prosecutor then went to the days around the shooting, starting on November 26, 2021, the day the gun, which ended up being the murder weapon, was purchased. In the days leading up to the shooting, Jennifer talked to Keur, the person who boarded their horses. They spoke multiple times about one of her horses who was sick. Jennifer also visited the horse barn numerous times. The day before the shooting, on Monday, November 29th, there was a web search on Jennifer's phone from 3:05 a.m. for clinical depression treatment options. Later that day, there was a Facebook conversation where Jennifer and James went back and forth about their sick horse. James was at the barn.
Now, sir, it's been a little tedious going through all of the messages regarding the horses. Give us an idea, because you're the one who actually extracted that information from Facebook. You reviewed it. How often will they show concern over their horses?
Quite often.
At 9:41, the day before the shooting, in the midst of their Facebook conversation about their horse, Jennifer received a phone call from the shooter's school. It went to voicemail. The voicemail was from officials at Oxford High School saying that the shooter had been looking up ammunition on his phone. Jennifer accessed the voicemail at 11:49 a.m. She was still in the midst of having a conversation with James about their horse at that time. Agent Wagrowski was asked if Jennifer texted her son about that voicemail. He said yes. Jennifer wrote a few minutes later, "Seriously? Looking up bullets in school?" The shooter responded, "What?" And then, "Oh yeah, I already went to the office for that. It was in first hour. All I did was look up a certain caliber at the end of class because I was curious. It was on my phone. Completely harmless. Teachers just have no privacy. They said I'm all good." He continued, "I understood why they talked to me, and they said that I'm good. This is nothing I should get in trouble about." Jennifer responded, "You're not. They left me a voicemail." She used the hand over face emoji twice. She then wrote, "Did you at least show them a pic of your new gun?" The shooter responded, "No, I didn't show them a pic. My God, I only told them I went to the range with you on Saturday. It was a harmless act. I have this bullet cartridge in my room that I didn't know what kind of bullet it was, and it said it was a .22. So at the end of first hour, I just looked up different types of .22 bullets. And I guess the teachers can't get their eyes off my screen, SMH. Jennifer wrote, "LOL, I'm not mad. You have to learn not to get caught." He responded, "I know, LOL." He used 2 laughing emojis. Then he wrote, "I just didn't want something like this little to get me in trouble because, well, I didn't want to get in trouble, LOL." He then said, "I want to hear the voicemail when I get home, though. Also, I never tried to hide me looking up the bullet. I just didn't think a teacher would be staring at my phone." Jennifer wrote, "Okay, I saved it." Agent Wagrowski was asked if Jennifer discussed the incident with James that day, and he said yes. In a Facebook message to James, Jennifer asked if their son had told him what had happened, and James said yeah. There was no further discussion about it on Facebook Messenger. On the day of the shooting, November 30th, 2021, the shooter was dropped off at school at 7:46 a.m. Jennifer was seen on surveillance video entering her work building at 9:04 a.m. Shortly after she arrived, she received a phone call from the school. At 9:24 a.m., there was a missed call from Oxford High School. She called back at 9:27 and spoke to someone for a little over 5 minutes. She then received a text from the counselor at her son's school a few minutes later at 9:31, along with an email. Both contained pictures of drawings on a math worksheet that the shooter had created. Jennifer sent a message to James at 9:33, which was later deleted from her phone, that read, "Call now," with now all in caps. Then, "Emergency." She also sent him the 2 photos of the math worksheet. James responded, "My God, WTF." He then wrote that he's still waiting on the vet for their horse. Jennifer wrote, "He said he was distraught about last night." James responded, "We talked about it this morning. You talked to him?" 6 minutes later, at 10:04 a.m., Jennifer texted, "Can you call? Heading to his school. I'm very concerned." Jennifer also sent the pictures of the math worksheets to her boss, Andrew Smith, at 10:05 a.m. She texted, "I have to go to my kid's school. Counselor just called. This is what I'm dealing with. Should be back at 11:30 or 12 at the latest." Records show that Jennifer left her work at 10:06 and headed to the school. At 10:07, she called the school counselor. Then James and Jennifer spoke at 10:29. They talked for 7 minutes. Both James and Jennifer arrived at the school around 10:37. Agent Wagrowski said that in a prior hearing, he had believed the parents had arrived together, but he now knows that they had driven separately. Immediately after the meeting, Jennifer sent a message to Keur, the person who boards their horses. At 10:58, she wrote, "Kay, I'll bring some out later. Just had to go to my son's school and meet his counselor. Shit day." Keur responded and asked if everything was okay and if she still wanted to do the lesson that night. Jennifer responded that, yeah, she still planned on doing the lesson. She said everything was okay and that her son was just having a hard time after losing his friend. She said his friend was going away to a treatment facility, and who knows what else, she said. She then sent her the photo of the math worksheets. She told Keur that she would be there later as long as she could get out there early. She said she had to leave work for an hour. She then talked more about her horse. Agent Wagrowski was asked what the first thing James did after the meeting was, and he said he went back to work as a DoorDash driver. As the day went on, Jennifer continued to text about her horse. Agent Wagrowski was asked if she texted her son after the school meeting, and he said yes. At 12:21 p.m., Jennifer wrote to him, "You okay?" He responded, "Yeah, I just got back from lunch." She then wrote, "You know you can talk to us and we won't judge." He responded at 12:42 and said, "I know, thank you. I'm sorry for that. I love you."
Did she respond to that?
No, not immediately, no.
When did she respond to it?
After the shooting started.
After the shooting was made public?
Yes.
How many minutes later, if you know?
Over a half an hour.
The prosecutor asked what the first relevant events were in either James or Jennifer's phones after 12:42. Agent Wagrowski said an active shooter alert went out to all parents at 1:09 p.m. James was making deliveries at the time and was in the Meijer parking lot. James called Jennifer. It was less than a minute long. Jennifer then left work at 1:18. Jennifer and James spoke again at 1:19 and talked for a little over 10 minutes. At this point, James had driven to their family home and was there while they spoke. While on the phone with James, as he was in their house, Jennifer sent a message to her son, responding to his earlier message. It said, "I love you too." Then, "You okay?" Then 4 minutes later, "Ethan, don't do it." Jennifer also sent a message to her boss at 1:23, which she later deleted from her phone. It said, "Gun is gone and so are the bullets." He responded, "I'm praying that everything is okay." Jennifer wrote, "OMG, Andy, he's going to kill himself. He must be the shooter." This message was also later deleted. James called 911 at 1:34. This call was played for the jury. In it, James says there's an active shooter situation at the high school, that his son goes to the high school, and that a gun is missing from his house. He asks for an officer to come right away. He tells the dispatcher how they went to meet with a counselor that morning. The shooter was taken into custody at about 1 p.m. Jennifer and James both went to the substation to meet with police at 1:58. Jennifer texted her boss, "I need a lawyer at the substation with police. Ethan did it." This text was also deleted. About a half hour later, they were back at home. At 3:39 that day, Jennifer wrote to her boss again, "I need my job. Please don't judge me for what my son did." At 5:47, he responded, "I can't even begin to understand what you're going through. I'm praying for you. I asked Caroline to text you some attorney recommendations." Jennifer then responded, "They're taking my cell phone." Jennifer and James were arrested in the early morning hours of December 4th. Additional messages that Jennifer had deleted from her phone were shown to the jury. This was from Jennifer to a man named Brian from before their arrest.
The first message is an automated one sent from Facebook to the device. You unsent a message.
Okay, and what's the next?
The next one says, from Jennifer, we're on the run again. Helicopters, not sure where to. I'll message you.
And when was this message sent?
You can see it says +0 for UTC. So you have to subtract 5 from the actual time that's displayed there from there. So that would have been 7:31 in the morning.
And what day was that?
That was on December 12th or December 2nd. I'm sorry.
Okay. So the shooting was November 30th. That was a Tuesday. Wednesday was December the 1st. This was the morning of December the 2nd.
Correct.
Also 1:51. What time and day is this?
This is, it's 7 p.m. UTC, which is minus 5 hours. So it's 2 p.m. on December 2nd.
Okay, that's Thursday, December 2nd. And
Right.
what did she delete from her phone? What message?
She had sent him, we're fucked.
She deleted that?
Yes, she did.
The prosecutor pointed out that Jennifer had also deleted the majority, thousands, of her Facebook messages with Keur, the woman who boarded her horse. Investigators had only found them after executing a search warrant on Facebook. On cross, Jennifer's attorney, Shannon Smith, brought up how following the shooting, there were reporters all over the Crumbley's street. She pointed to text messages Jennifer had sent to Keur, where she said she can't go home and doesn't want to put anyone else at risk.
Jennifer Crumbley is representing that she's trying to work out lawyer fees, figuring out about being questioned, if she's going to be brought in, amounts she can pay, things like that, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And Jennifer is telling her, I am bawling right now. My son ruined so many lives today.
That's correct.
And he did ruin so many lives that day.
Yes, he did.
Smith then brought up the text messages the shooter had sent to his mom about hearing and seeing things in the house when he was home alone. They went back and forth for a bit about how he couldn't be sure when Jennifer actually read them.
When I say there's a number of things that could have happened, I mean, she could have read the text and thought this is garbage or he's joking and just set the phone down, correct?
She could have.
Okay. She could have not seen the texts because she was busy doing something.
Correct.
She could have been, we know she's at the horse ranch. Are you aware of how strong Jennifer Crumbley's cell signal is out at the farm, at the barn, where the horses are kept?
I have no idea about that. No, I do not.
Okay. If her cell signal doesn't work out where the barn is, it's possible these texts are not getting to her until she gets to a place where data uploads into the phone, correct?
That's correct.
A little later, outside the presence of the jury, Smith and the prosecutors went back and forth over sharing witness lists and evidence lists, and things got pretty heated. Then the prosecution asked the judge to instruct the defense to use appropriate decorum in the courtroom, citing a joke Smith had made in court earlier, where, when she was fumbling with the projector, she commented, "I'm going to kill myself."
But making a joke about killing yourself in this courtroom at this time, I understand.
I didn't mean it like that. I'm sorry. I am so sorry. I did not mean it like
yelling
that.
I
did not mean it like that. And they know I didn't mean it like that.
Okay.
We're responding to literally just sitting here, the amount of messages we get from victims in the community. And I just think just to be at a abundance of respect and caution, if we could just not say things like that. I'm not accusing anyone of any malice or any bad intent. I'm just asking that we just not engage in that, because this is hard enough for the people who are sitting here now and who will be sitting here next week.
I understand. It's very hard.
Your Honor, I am not joking around about anything.
Okay, I think it was a slip of the tongue. It was a slip of the tongue, right? Emotions are running high. We also, a lot of people are saying Ethan instead of the shooter,
but Your Honor, I do want to make a point. I'm not making an objection because my emotions are running high. In fact, I'm not having an emotional response here. I am simply asking that we be respectful to victims. That's it.
Your Honor, I am being respectful. So that is implying I'm being disrespectful. Me saying I'm going to Kilmes, I didn't mean in any way to offend
I know you didn't.
these families.
I know you didn't. It was a slip of the tongue. She's just.
It was absolutely not related to them.
I know.
This shooting is awful. It's the prosecution that's parading all of this up here and putting the victims through
The
this.
shooting is the result of the defendant's gross negligence. That is the case.
Okay.
They are the ones putting the victims
everybody
through
needs to-
re-seeing all of
everybody
this
needs to
over
go
and
home.
over
Your
and
Honor,
over.
Whoa! Everybody needs to go home. Everybody needs to go home. All right.
I understand, but we're not putting victims through anything. I'm sorry, but that just because everybody's disagreeing doesn't mean everyone is inappropriate. We aren't putting victims through everything. We're prosecuting our case, and we're trying to do it in the most efficient way possible.
And she's defending her case. I think that was a slip of the tongue. Everybody needs to take a deep breath and go home. Everybody go home. I'm going home.
All rise.
Kira Pennick, who owns and runs the horse farm where the Crumbleys boarded their horses, testified that she gave lessons to Jennifer 2 to 3 times a week during the evenings. She said she had known Jennifer and James for a couple years prior to them boarding their horses with her in 2021. She said she may have met their son once or twice, but not at her barn. She said when Jennifer would visit the barn on the weekends, she would usually bring James, but never her son. She was asked if kids are allowed there, and she said yes. She said all events they have at the farm, kids are invited to. On Halloween 2021, for example, they had a Halloween party on a weekend. She said Jennifer and James came to the party dressed in costumes. They did not bring their son. She said every once in a while, Jennifer would talk about her son, but not often.
Do you remember things that she would say?
Usually it was along the lines of she was having problems with him, or he wasn't acting normal. She had called him weird before. She wanted him to do normal kid things.
Okay.
I never remember her saying anything about really bringing him out to the barn much or really doing much. I mean, they would go on vacations. I did hear about some vacations that they had gone on. But really there was not much talk about her son.
Did she ever refer to him as a certain name? Did she speak negatively about him, or was it just or positively?
There was nothing truly positive when she was talking about him. There were quite a few times that she had voiced that he was an oopsie baby.
She said the drive from Oxford, where the Crumbleys lived, to the barn was about 20 minutes. On the morning of November 30th, she said their horse Billy needed to see the vet to treat mud fever. She said she first heard about the shooting when one of her students' moms called her in the afternoon and said they wouldn't be at their lesson that day due to the shooting.
All right, and what was your first thought, Kira?
My first thought is that I knew who the shooter was by the math test that was sent to me.
All right, that's a heavy thing to think. Talk to me about why that was your first thought.
It's not normal for somebody to draw these things on a test in school or even really think about these things, especially in a school setting, but really ever.
She said about an hour and a half after the shooting, Jennifer texted her.
Kira, I won't be there tonight.
And you respond?
It's okay. Want me to work Billy for you?
And she says?
Yes, please.
Okay, and talk to me about the next text and the picture.
It says just brought him in, and it's a picture of Billy.
All right. Did you text her photos or message her photos a lot of the horses?
I would send her pictures as I took them. I tried to be good about taking pictures of the horses.
Okay, and the next slide. This is at 4:07.
I said, hey, is everything okay? I heard there was a shooting at Oxford High School. Is Ethan okay?
And then at 4:21, you send another text?
If you need anything, please let me know. And then under that, oh, no, that's the same.
Okay.
Message that's up there.
She responds at 4:42 and says what?
I need to sell my horse's stat.
At 6:47, Jennifer messaged her again and told her she won't have her cell phone. Keur told her to do what she needs to do and that she will take care of the horses. They continued to message back and forth about the horses and also about the shooting. Keur told her that she was seeing posts on Facebook and that people were figuring out what was going on. Jennifer responded that she's off Facebook. At 11 p.m., Keur texted her and asked if she had the medication for their horse. Jennifer said she would drop it off the following day and said that they were at a hotel because the news were at their house. Keur told her it wasn't a problem and to please stay safe. Jennifer told her that she can't go home and sent her a screenshot of what appeared to be people threatening them. Keur told her that she was concerned for them. At one point that night, Jennifer said she was bawling and that her son had ruined so many lives that day. Keur told her to take it one day at a time and to be honest about everything. In another message, Jennifer said, "I wish we had warnings, something. He's a good kid who made a terrible decision." She said she's glad their horse is doing well. "It kills me to sell him," she said. Keur responded that there were probably warnings, but that no one saw them. "Hindsight is always 20/20, she wrote. She then said a lot of people on Facebook found out that her son was the shooter, and she told her not to come into the barn unless she's escorted by the police. "I'm really sorry," she said, "but I'm looking out for my business and other customers." Keur testified that she was worried about the safety of her other boarders. She said she had other clients who had students at Oxford, and they didn't want to come to the barn if Jennifer and James were going to be there. The following day, Jennifer responded, "Seriously? Those horses are the only thing that's good in my life right now." Keur said she understands, but that they all need to be careful. "What if people follow you here?" she asked. Jennifer tried to call her over Facebook, but Keur didn't answer. Jennifer wrote that she wanted to call her, and Keur told her that she was busy and asked if they could message instead. Jennifer said, "Let's talk later. This phone is hard to text on." Keur messaged her later that night and said she's okay if Jennifer wants to come to the barn without the police present. They exchanged more messages over the next couple days. Jennifer at one point told her that her Facebook Messenger was probably being monitored. Jennifer also said that they needed to talk to get the horse stuff figured out and to sell them. Keur asked her if she wanted check or cash, and Jennifer said cash would be best. Keur asked if they're able to meet, and Jennifer said maybe. They're announcing charges at 12, so not sure what's happening. Keur responded that they would figure something out and to let her know. Keur told the court that the horses were eventually signed over to her as part of their contract. She made the arrangements with Jennifer's dad. On cross, Smith brought up her prior testimony at a hearing when Keur said she didn't believe that Jennifer and James had those types of issues with their son. She agreed that Jennifer had sent her the math worksheets and said she was concerned. She said she only believed her son was the shooter right away after seeing the math worksheets. And that's where I'm going to stop for today. In part 2, the prosecution brings out the school administrators to testify about what was going on from the school's point of view. We'll also hear from the defense, including from Jennifer Crumbley herself. We'll go over the verdict and then learn the fate of Jennifer's husband, James, as well. I don't necessarily like to have to release these episodes in parts like this, especially when I'm bi-weekly now. But sometimes there's just so much information that I think it's important to understanding why the jury voted the way they did. And that makes it impossible to cover it in just one episode. So part 2 will be released in 2 weeks. Thanks again for listening. Until next time.